The Javett Art Centre at the University of Pretoria opens a significant new exhibition. It's entitled One and the Many. It's presented across multiple gallery spaces, and the exhibition brings together a dynamic selection of contemporary artworks in dialogue with three significant collections housed at the institution. So the artists across generations have really responded to ideas of self, of community, of history and belonging. So perhaps to share a little bit more on the exhibition, we are joined this morning by curator Storm Janse Van Rensburg. Storm, on that note, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
Let's talk about the title of the exhibition, its significance. If you were looking at aspects of self that you're confronting and questioning, talk to us about what's emerging through this body of work.
A starting point for the exhibition is the thematic of one and the many, which is something that I think is very familiar for us as South Africans. Is how do we think about, how do we place ourselves as individuals in relation to others, our individuality against groups or with groups, and I think it's also part of a very profound African humanism that I am because of you, and I thought it would be a good way to bring this theme into the exhibition, where we have works from artists spanning from the 1960s to the present. Think about the past, our South African histories. Artists tell the stories of our society in many ways, in complexity and nuance. And so this is a great way for us, I think, to maybe look at those histories afresh again. Those are some of the thoughts of how the exhibition developed.
Well, Storm, how do you see your work contributing or even just challenging historical narratives, given our own history, perhaps even if we confront some of the internal dialogues and resistance that obviously would have come about as a result in crafting the pieces, and perhaps also inviting the caliber of artists that you have included in this exhibition as well?
Like I said, this reflection of our lives by artists and the stories that they tell is so important.
Yes.
And I think it's also important that we look at more nuance, more detail,
yes,
lived lives also, that we also kind of give, these big historical narratives that we know as South Africans, that we also give it a kind of a new look again. And what I mean by that is that we also could maybe put things together in new ways. It's always very interesting when we make exhibitions. You might even know when you do something at home, when you put you move a piece of furniture around, or you kind of like put a new piece of a picture on the wall. Something happens in that dynamic that you really look at things. So this is what exhibitions allow us, especially if you work with historic collections. You put one thing in conversation with something else, and then it's maybe that there's possible links between things that start to develop, ways that we could look at things, and I think that's important. But yes, I think also we in an opportunity in our South African history right now, we can also critically look back at things, but also I think there's sometimes stories that is neglected, forgotten. And I think it's time for us to also look at those a bit more clearly. Yeah,
it's about reimagining, to your point. It's also about what we choose to remember and also what we choose to forget. And even if we reimagine what, this new sense of belonging then means to us, right, as we are in relation to everything else, how are those concepts and ideas and emotions reflected in the materials and just the imagery that's used in what you've curated?
Yeah, you can see some of the images now, that's been going in the slides here. So what you will notice there are a couple of very bold and big objects that's been brought into the exhibition. And I think those are some of the invited artists that we brought in. There's an artist, Inga Somdiala, that we invited for a site-specific commission at Javett-UP. The building itself offers amazing opportunities. Also, it has huge heights, beautiful open volumes, and we invited Inga to scale up one of his ideas, which is essentially a kind of a work that looked at South African seafaring colonial histories. We know that ships arrived and what they brought. And I think Inga just brings us back into this, but he also uses material, a very kind of beautiful cotton red, rich color. That is kind of something that we can associate with body. There's something that with clothing. And I think there's almost an emphatic emotional connection to this material. And then we place this particular red work, so beautiful, that's on the screen right now, with a fantastic series by Simon Klangetwa that's called Glimpses of the 1950s and 60s, where he kind of gives us an insight into a part of histories that might not have been represented very well at the time, especially when it comes to Black lives and the way that kind of the everyday kind of played out. So those are some of the ways that this happens in the exhibition.
And I mean, even if we're looking at communities, both past and present, the conversations that you want to have through this, through the body of work, perhaps aiding to our healing at large. What do you want people to walk away with? What conversations do you also want to be sparked through this exhibition? Even if we're looking at the gallery space and why it was the perfect space to exhibit this as well. Talk us about how that was so intentionally, crafted.
Exhibitions allow us to take visitors on a journey. When you arrive at a museum or a gallery, often you arrive with the whole world on your shoulders. And what we, because you carry so much with you, the noise of the outside, and you come into a space that's a bit more kind of quiet, and that you have a moment maybe to also let go of the outside world. With exhibition design, we try to make spaces where you could slow down, maybe sit down, make it a bit easier, reflect. But I think it's also about carefully looking at what artworks allow us to see and what they tell us. And so that kind of careful looking. And so we're taking on a journey through various spaces. These bold colors on the wall, it creates a very particular atmospheres in very specific spaces. But the idea is that we put the artwork still on the foreground, that we can look and create a beautiful environment. We also, as a visitor, you feel comfortable. Museums and galleries can still feel very kind of elitist and kind of like not so welcome. And I think we have to make real strides to break that, to say like, you're welcome, come and spend time with us, come and look, because it's all our stories are here. And that's the invitation.
I like, just that analogy of the space allowing us to slow down and just to release, the weight of the world. And I mean, for people that obviously want to come and view this, how long is it running for? How do they contact you? How do we keep those conversations going? Tell us a little bit more.
So Javett-UP is located in Tshwane. It is part of the University of Pretoria campus. We open Tuesdays and Saturdays, 10 to 4 p.m. Please come and visit us. We will have special programming during the run of the exhibition. This exhibition is on for a little while, so there's no excuse not to come to and see it. It's up until April next year.
All right, thank you, Storm. On that note, we'll leave our conversation there. We'll come and pay a visit. It's long overdue. Thank you for joining us and for sharing, this landmark exhibition happening at the Javett-UP. Of course, just bringing contemporary artists into dialogue with historic South African collections, whilst also exploring the relationship between self and the collective and belonging at large. Thank you to Storm for joining us. We're going to take a quick ad break. Upon our return, we shine a spotlight on Miriam Makeba, her legacy, and how that is going to be taken forward. Let's continue after this.